been preparing all year, getting ready for stuff like this, games like this. Here we go! Hey, Mom!
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
That's a Christmas gift right there.
The scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago.
It's a miracle in Las Vegas! Oh, my God! And I want to hear you guys celebrate.
It's the most wonderful time. Yes, the most wonderful time. Oh, the most wonderful time.
Snowball celebration
Of the year.
Merry Christmas to all!
Happy holidays, everybody. Welcome to this Christmas Eve edition of NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. I am Marcus Grant. He is Michael F. Florio. And we are nice and warm here in our studio here in Inglewood, California. We've been looking around at the country and seeing the weather reports. And honestly, stay safe, stay warm wherever you might be. We are here indoors. It's going to be a balmy 75 degrees in Southern California today.
I complain when it's below 50 here. So, like, I'm sorry, everyone. Stay warm, please.
Absolutely. We do wish you the best wherever you are in the country today. And we got a lot of football. We got a lot of stuff to talk about on the show. Of course, as always, you can send us your questions on Twitter at NFL Fantasy. We answer as many of them as we can here on this show. The rest of them go to Aaron Tan because he doesn't like lettuce. Before we get started, though, before we dive into this, just one update from the Texans-Titans game in Nashville. That is going to be delayed an hour. There is a strain on the power grid there in Nashville. They've been having rolling blackouts, so the start of that game is going to be postponed for an hour again. If you are there, stay safe, stay warm. That is probably the most important part. We will get to the football whenever the football is appropriate there in Nashville. But let's start by getting to some of the top injury news in fantasy. Tyler Huntley is going to play despite a shoulder injury. Kenneth Walker is on the field today for the Seahawks against the Chiefs, despite a couple of issues there. Damian Harris not playing with an ankle injury, but the ankle will not keep Ramondre Stevenson off the field. Jacoby Myers has a shoulder issue, but he will play. Hopefully he does not throw the ball this week. Brandon Cooks back and active despite a calf. Treylon Burks is out of the protocol, and he is active this week for the Titans. Hayden Hurst inactive with a calf. Noah Fant should be good to go for the Seahawks with a knee issue. Let's take a look at the late games for today and the Sunday games as well. Jalen Hurts, we know, is out with a shoulder issue. Myles Gaskin is questionable with an illness. Latavius Murray and Courtland Sutton both questionable for the Broncos. Deontay Johnson dealing with a toe issue. Marquise Brown is questionable with a groin, and Julio Jones trying to battle through a knee issue to see if he can get on the field there. But the biggest game of the day is the Eagles and the Cowboys. Philadelphia, a chance to lock up the NFC East and the 1 seed with a win. Jane Slater is there, and this is what she had to report.
Two of the best in the NFC square off today here at AT&T Stadium when we talk about the Cowboys versus the Eagles. If the Eagles win this one, they clinch the NFC East. And they've been incredibly efficient on offense this year thanks to that running game. They're number 1 in the league for rushing touchdowns, the Cowboys number 2. But here's how the Eagles have been able to have that sort of marking. They've rushed inside the red zone 100 times this year. Now, they're missing Jalen Hurts today, so that takes a little bit off the board, but that still provides several opportunities for a guy like Miles Sanders. As for red zone receptions, you might be surprised when I tell you who's been the most productive there. Not Michael Gallup, not CeeDee Lamb, not Dalton Schultz, but Noah Brown if you're looking for a value add.
Thank you, Jane. Let's take a deeper look at that game, though. Gardner Minshew, as she mentioned, is going to be starting for the Philadelphia Eagles with no Jalen Hurts. Are you confident enough to put Minshew in your lineup? He's been the talk of fantasy for the week. Would you put him in some lineups?
Yeah, I think some people might not have a choice, but I like Gardner Minshew this week. Like, if you lost Jalen Hurts, there's a good chance you probably didn't have a backup quarterback because the Hurts injury came out of nowhere. You thought you were set at the position. The only name I like more as a streamer this week is Daniel Jones. But after Jones, I think Minshew's in play as the next best streaming option. He consistently throws 2 touchdowns. We know that he was a reliable starter when he was with the Jags, and now he's got a better system and better playmakers around him.
You're talking about 2 quarterbacks in Minshew and Jones that aren't going to be affected by weather because they're both going to be playing in.
They drew the long straws, I guess, because they don't have to play in the freezing cold today.
Right, exactly. So Minshew very much in play there. There's a whole lot going on there with the weapons there. We know that guys like A.J. Brown, even Devontae Smith, decent floor. We'll see if the ceiling stays the same for some of those guys there. Khalil Herbert is back and active for the Chicago Bears after missing an extended period of time. David Montgomery has been quietly very consistent for fantasy managers. How do you feel about Khalil Herbert in lineups, and does this have an impact on Montgomery?
I don't think I'd be super excited to get Khalil Herbert back into my lineup. It's a cold game. I know there's probably going to be a lot of running in this game, but it's still his first game back. I do think David Montgomery is still in play as a starter, someone that I'm starting everywhere that I have him. Herbert returning, I think, knocks a little bit of value off of Montgomery, but he still should lead the way. Much more comfortable with him than I would be with Khalil Herbert.
I'm definitely not playing Khalil Herbert anywhere. My only concern is that he takes some of the targets away from David Montgomery. That has been a big boost for him with Herbert gone, and maybe some of those numbers come down now that Herbert is back. It is time now for Waiver Wire, presented by KFC. Let's take a look at some notable players available in more than 50% of NFL.com leagues. There is the aforementioned Danny Dimes going against the Vikings. Jerick McKinnon, who's been red hot for the Chiefs. A couple of Colts running backs are in play with Jonathan Taylor out for the season. Zach Moss and Deion Jackson there. Tyler Algier going against the Ravens today. Darius Slayton, who has been kind of a nice sleeper pick at times this season. He's got the Vikings. Marquise Goodwin in play with no Tyler Lockett. Donovan Peoples-Jones, though it might be tough to throw the football against the Saints, mostly because of the wind. And Juwan Johnson, I guess same problem going against the Cleveland Browns. But if you were picking a waiver wire hero for Week 16, where are you going?
I'm going to go with somebody that I've been talking up all week in Darius Slayton. Look, 1, you don't have to worry about whether it's an indoor game. 2, a lot of points expected in this game as the Vikings' offense has been great, but their defense has allowed a ton of production. That means the Giants will probably have to throw to keep up with the Vikings. And Slayton is their best outside receiver, is their best downfield receiver. That matters because the Vikings have allowed the most yards to outside receivers. They're in the top 3 on deep passes, and they're in the top 3 in just fantasy points allowed to position, but they're a little bit tougher on the slot as well, so I think that even funnels even more volume out wide to Darius Slayton.
Do like Slayton this week against Minnesota. I also like Juwan Johnson. I know I said it might be tough to throw the football, and it will be, especially if either of these teams tries to push the ball downfield. But I do think with Johnson, what is in play is still a lot of short throws, just getting him the football and letting him work. Athletic tight end, we've seen him make plays, and I've been saying it all week. He was once a sleeper. Now he's just become a start because of what he means. And with no Chris Olave or Jarvis Landry, they're going to have to go somewhere with the football. And I think it's Juwan Johnson getting those looks certainly over Rashid Shaheed. Time now for 15 for 15, presented by Geico. Let's look at some must-start quarterbacks for the week, Mike.
I'm still going back with Justin Herbert even after last week's disappointment. Geno Smith very much in play against the Kansas City Chiefs. Same thing for Tua, who bounced back last week. It's a good matchup against the Packers. And then if you can't tell, I really like this Vikings and Giants game. I have both Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones as starts. Let's focus on Kirk Cousins, though. He's been playing great football with at least 400 passing yards in 2 straight games. In that span, he's averaging 29 fantasy points per game. In the last month, 3 times he has topped 21 fantasy points. And the Giants have allowed a top 8 quarterback in 2 of their last 3 games. Again, the Vikings defense allows a bunch of production and points in their own right, so the Vikings offense could never really take their foot off the pedal. And even if they fall behind, we've seen last week that no lead is too big. They're going to keep on fighting.
I'm going to guess that Kirk O'Chains is not going to have to lead a 33-point comeback this week.
Maybe 32.
I'm going to go out on a limb and just say that right there. Take a look at the must-start running backs for the week. I mentioned Jerick McKinnon, who has been red hot. I'm putting Nick Chubb in there just as a reminder. I know he's been underwhelming for the last few weeks, but this looks like a great opportunity against the Saints in the cold there in Cleveland. Aaron Jones, great matchup against the Dolphins. Latavius Murray is questionable, but I think trending in the right direction and should get plenty of work against the Rams. Right there at the bottom, though, Jeff Wilson Jr. going against the Green Bay Packers. Now, he's been nursing a hip injury, so keep a tabs on whether or not he's going to go. But either way, I think both of these Dolphins running backs are in play. Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert both have great opportunities. We saw last week on Monday night, even though the Packers won, Cam Akers was able to run the ball fairly effectively. Teams have been able to run against Green Bay this year. So if Jeff Wilson is able to play, you start him, and you can pivot to Raheem Mostert just in case he can't go. Let's look at the wide receivers that should be started this week. Who you got?
A.J. Brown still in play, even with no Jalen Hurts. I'm going back for Christian Watson, just far too much upside there. I think DJ Moore is a really strong play. And T. Higgins, I know he's been up and down, but I would still start him if I have him. And then you see Mike Evans there. I know Mike Evans hasn't been what we thought Mike Evans would be this year. He is having, I mean, if we're being honest, his worst season of his career. But I still think you start him because last week he had more yards and fantasy points than he has had since week 8. He's had at least 9 targets in 3 of his last 4 games. And the touchdowns, like he's in his longest drought of his career without a touchdown. I think, one, the Bucs want to get him going and will target him there. But not only does he lead them in end zone targets this year, the Cardinals have allowed the 4th most red zone targets to receivers. So I think Evans scores a touchdown, and I think a big play could be in store for him as well this week.
Your fantasy gods, if Mike Evans could ever have a big game, please let it be today.
Yes.
Amen. Let's go with the tight ends that you must start this week. And if there's some names on here that seem chalky, it's because, man, it's tough to find some tight ends. TJ Hawkinson, who's been having a good year since he went to Minnesota. Cade Otton getting more looks from Tom Brady. Plus, he's got the Cardinals this week. Chig Okonkwo, even with Trey Burke's back, I think Okonkwo gets some work. Hunter Henry has a pretty good matchup against the Bengals. But up at the top, it's Mark Andrews. And trying to get people to start Mark Andrews or stick with him has been a tough sell the last few weeks because he really just has not been the same since returning from injury. But here's the thing. The opportunities are still there. The target share, the air yard share, they're all still there. It just hasn't translated to points. But the Falcons have been the worst team at stopping fantasy tight ends over the last month. So if there's ever an opportunity for Mark Andrews to get back on the right track, it is this week. Even I don't care if it's Tyler Huntley at quarterback, it doesn't matter to me. They're still targeting Mark Andrews, and I think he can have one of his more normal, I guess, type Mark Andrews performances coming up today. All right, normally you guys ask us the questions on Twitter, but we like to ask you some questions every once in a while. And our poll question is, which quarterback will get into the holiday mood and score the most fantasy points today? Patrick Mahomes against the Seahawks, Josh Allen against the Bears. Is it going to be Joe Burrow today, or is it going to be Justin Fields? I know who you're going to say.
Selfishly, for my fantasy teams, I need it to be Josh Allen or Justin Fields. Like, I don't have much Mahomes or Burrow. I have a lot of the other two.
I actually think it might be Patrick Mahomes.
Safe bet.
Yeah, I can't really go wrong there. And I think it's going to be a high-scoring game between them and the Seahawks.
Joe Burrow is the one that worries me in that New England weather.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. We'll see how that sort of works out there. But you can go to NFL Fantasy on Twitter, and you can vote for who you think is going to have the best day. We're going to step away for just a moment, but we're going to take a look in here at, hey, there's Joe Burrow getting loose as they get ready to take on the New England Patriots. I don't know if Bill Belichick was on to Cincinnati after what happened last week. We'll see. And there's Patrick Mahomes. It looks cold there. I saw pictures of Seahawks players walking around with no shirts on. I wouldn't advise that. We're talking about the quarterback matchup in Bills-Bears. That's next on NFL Fantasy Game Day. Kirko Chains getting loose. The Vikings, they get to play inside today, which seems like a benefit considering how things are going around the rest of the country. Vikings and Giants, interesting matchup, especially fantasy-wise. And, oh, it looks very cold out there in Chicago.
Ooh.
Yeah, good luck, Justin Fields.
Not envious.
Hopefully you and the Bears can keep it close. I think they can keep it close against the Bills.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they almost beat the Eagles last week.
So we'll see what they have to do running the football. I think both quarterbacks going to be very involved in the running game. Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. I am Marcus. He is Michael. Of course, you can keep sending us your questions on Twitter at NFL Fantasy. Let's get to a couple of them right now. This first one from Jeffrey, who wants to know Marquise Goodwin or Courtland Sutton for his second flex spot.
Is it crazy to say Goodwin? Because I'm going to say Goodwin. Sutton has been playing the second target behind Jerry Jeudy as of late, and I just don't really love the Broncos passing game.
No, I think the Chiefs are going to have to score. The Seahawks are going to have to score more points against the Chiefs. I'm not expecting a ton of scoring between the Broncos and the Rams, so I think I like Marquise Goodwin a little more in that one as well. This one from Matt, who wants to know Geno or Tua?
I like both of these guys a lot. I think both of them are in play as starts, but because of what you just said, the Seahawks having to chase points against the Chiefs, I'm going to go with Geno here.
I think I might lean Tua. I think the Dolphins can score. I think the Packers may be moving the ball as well. So I'm going to lean Tua, but it's close. So we didn't help you at all, Matt. Sorry about your luck. We did see Justin Fields getting loose at a very frigid Soldier Field. Also at Soldier Field, hopefully trying to stay warm as Stacey Dales, and here's what she had to say.
Hey guys, as expected here in Chicago, dangerously, bitterly cold temperatures right around 0 right now, but it's the wind chill pushing about -20. That will not subside, nor will this wind. Gusts up to about 33 miles per hour out of the west today, but the average wind's about 23 miles per hour, and that means a heavy dose of the run game. Both teams do it really well in terms of the Bills and the Bears. Chicago actually continuing to lead the NFL in rush yards per game, just under 190 as a group. But these two quarterbacks, they both do it well. In fact, 2 of 4 quarterbacks this season in the NFL with plus 700 yards on the ground. Justin Fields, so hard to take down. Sean McDermott, head coach of these Bills, told me he is an absolute headache. Just when you think you've got him tackled or sacked, he's gone. And now he gets Khalil Herbert added back to his backfield. So that means David Montgomery, Herbert, and Fields running the ball today. And as for Josh Allen and company, expect a heavy dose of Devin Singletary coming out of the backfield. We know situational football will be compromised today. Expect a shortened field in terms of field goals, making fourth down decisions ultra imperative for both teams.
Please go defrost, Stacey. We appreciate the report there. Now it's time for Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Taking a look at the quarterbacks in this Bills-Bears game. And according to DraftKings, they project Josh Allen to throw for 216.5 yards and rush for another 51.5. That's a total of 268 yards. Where do you have him today?
I have him pretty close to those numbers. I have the passing yards a little bit higher at 260 and then 55 rushing yards. So that's around 305 total yards. Let's keep this going. There we go. And then for touchdowns, I have 2 passing. I do not have a rushing, but a rushing touchdown is in play. And that equates to about 24 fantasy points, which for a lot of quarterbacks is like a really good game. For Joshua Patrick Allen, that's basically an ordinary Sunday. And the reason the passing yards, I think, are so low are because of the wind and the weather there. I completely get it. But he is one of the few quarterbacks that routinely leads his team in rushing yards. So I have him projected for 55, but he could easily go for 70, 80, maybe even more. We saw him last week go for 77. Rushing touchdowns always in play. The only pass catcher, though, that I feel good about on this Bills team is Stephon Diggs. I think the rest of them, because of the conditions, especially Gabe Davis, who relies on the long ball, I would get away from this week.
It's going to be hard to trust a lot of the pass catchers on the Bills side. I guess for the Bears, there aren't a lot of pass catchers we really believe in fantasy-wise. For Justin Fields, however, DraftKings projects him to throw for 137.5 yards and gain another 74.5 on the ground. That works out to 212. I'm a little bit more optimistic, although that was before I saw Stacey Dales standing there in, gale force winds. But we're still going to keep with it. We're going to bump him up to 245 scrimmage yards. We're going to give him 2 total touchdowns, 1 through the air, 1 on the ground, and that works out to, well, there's only half points here. We'll give him 25 because we're going to round up a little bit for Justin Fields. I do think most of the work he does is going to be on the ground. I've got him at a little more than 80 rushing yards in this game. I think a rushing touchdown very much in play. Throwing the football is going to be tough, but this is not really a vertical offense, so I think that sort of helps there. I expect a lot of short passes, Cole Kmet getting involved, maybe some throws to either David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert now that he is back. So I think that's where it sort of works for Justin Fields. You're not going to see him trying to push the ball deep down the field, so I don't know that the wind comes into play quite as much, except for the fact that it's just going to be brutally, brutally cold. Good luck to all of you. Get in on the hottest sports action for your shot at cold hard cash with DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet on your favorite sports all season long and gear up for football season. Right now, new customers can get a special offer when they sign up using promo code WHOSCORES. It is time for a break, and there is Danny Dimes. Looks so comfortable. They're all inside. It's like 70 degrees in the dome.
It's so unfair. Like, that guy's in a T-shirt.
He's smiling.
He just saw Stacey Dales looking like the abominable snowman.
Like Justin Fields wasn't smiling. Hey, it's Santa's here. It might even be, hey, bro, you got work to do in a little bit. Shouldn't you be gearing up? You got a whole long night ahead of you. You should take a nap or something. Anyway, we got burning questions coming up. It'll be warm when we do those. That's next on NFL Fantasy Game Day.
Mac Jones hands it off on a draw to Ramondre Stevenson, breaks out of a tackle at the 50, has the 45, breaks away from another tackle, pitches it backwards, and now Jacoby Myers spinning around. He throws it to Chandler Jones in midfield, and a sniffle! Chandler Jones racing towards the end zone. He scores! Oh my goodness! I can't believe what I just saw on the first night of Hanukkah. It's a miracle in Las Vegas.
I don't know what Jacoby Myers is doing or who the hell he's throwing the ball to. The quarterback's going to run 50 yards? This might be one of the dumbest teams I've ever seen.
Just can't do that in this league, and and it cost us.
It's not a predictable game sometimes, and obviously the ending was probably the most insane ending I think I've ever been a part of. But we'll take it. We'll take it for sure.
A wild ending for the Raiders last week. We'll see what they have in store for us this week. The Holiday Classic, Raiders versus Steelers, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can see that game on NFL Network. You can stream it on NFL Plus. Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. He is Mike. I am Marcus. I'm still laughing at the ending of that game last week. Like, I still don't know what the end game was for Jakobi Meyers if he completes that.
What I think goes under the radar a little bit is, like, Stevenson, it would have had to break a tackle or two, but he had a lane to the outside. Like, he might have been able to take it the distance.
Oh, it's just comedy watching it over and over again. I'm sure the Patriots and their fans aren't laughing. They've got to regroup, and they've got to take on the Cincinnati Bengals this week. Mike Giardi is in Foxborough, and here's what he's got.
So I'm the guy giving you fantasy advice from Patriots and Bengals, even though I got eliminated in the quarterfinals of my fantasy football league. But hey, whatever. I still got it up here. And one of the things I'll tell you is if you have Ramondre Stevenson, play him. I know the Bengals defense has really shored up interior with DJ Reader playing at a high level, but the Patriots' best path for success is to give the ball to Ramondre as many times as possible, whether it's by carry or those little swing passes and screens. As for the Bengals, look for Tyler Boyd to have a big game. Patriots playing a lot of that too high safety stuff that is sort of propagated in the league right now, and Boyd's the guy who works underneath. Patriots have sort of struggled sometimes against the slot this year, and Boyd is one of the better ones they'll face all season. And oh, by the way, the weather right now, it's cold, but the wind is down. Should help the passing game.
Thank you for your service, Mike, even though you got bumped from the playoffs. We all feel your pain. But should be an interesting one today. Joe Burrow, he's got most of his pass catchers there. Any Patriots that you would have any interest in starting?
Just Ramondre. Like, on Fantasy Live yesterday, I did a whole thing on, like, if your Patriot player is not named Ramondre, including the defense, because normally the defense is in play, I don't want to start them against Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense. So if you're not named Ramondre, hit the bench.
Especially with the winds not being an issue there, that means Burrow and team can throw it all over the lot. So it might be a tough one for New England today. Time now for burning questions, and we got 3 of them this week. The first one, is Darren Waller a reliable start now that he's back?
Yeah, I think so. I wrote about him as a start in the Stardom Sit-em this week. Last week, he turned 3 targets into 14 fantasy points. He averaged 16 yards per catch. Not many tight ends can bring that sort of upside, but he was kind of eased in last week. I think he will get more run this week, and with it being, potentially bad weather and winds being an issue, we could see some shorter, quicker throws, which likely go to Darren Waller.
48% of snaps last week with Foster Moreau handling the rest. I think that flips. Maybe you see even more for Darren Waller this week, but I do like him. We just want tight ends with upside, and he's got plenty of it. Next one. Can fantasy managers trust Jerick McKinnon?
Yes. Yes. Like, another player that I had as a start this week, he's been the RB1 in 2 consecutive weeks, giving you over 32 fantasy points, over 8 targets in both games, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, he's playing out of his mind. And I think it's something I've kind of spoke a little bit on this week. I think the Chiefs are very smart, and Jerick McKinnon isn't a big dude, a big running back, so they ease his touches in the early bit of the season, but we saw them last year late in the season and in the playoffs when the weather gets cold, it's harder to complete those downfield passes. That's when they set him free, and it kind of feels like that's what's happening again this season.
I also think he's sort of game script proof because he is so heavily involved in the passing game. He and Juju Smith-Schuster have sort of been alternating for who the number 2 target is after Travis Kelce, and he's running downfield routes. When I say downfield, he's not running, the routes we saw Tyreek Hill running in the past, but he's beyond the line of scrimmage. It's not just dump-offs and screens. Like, they're actually having him do things out there, and that really makes a big difference. Last one. We've talked about the weather and how there's going to be a lot of it around the country today. Should fantasy managers look for replacement kickers in bad weather games?
Yes, 100%. Like, I know a lot of the times we say, like, oh, weather impacts our decisions too much. No great decision was made off of weather. But the one position I think you can use that in is kickers, because I mean, it's just so hard to kick anything further than like 30 yards when you're talking about snow and wind. And you watched Thursday night, you saw how much strength the kickers had to put just to get a 30-something yard field goal through. So yeah, I'm definitely, my kickers at least, I'm putting in only good weather and primarily indoor games this week.
And if you're watching on Twitter and you're seeing some of the beat reporters around the country tweet about it, and they're talking about the kickers warming up, I haven't seen anything beyond, say, 40 or 45 yards in some of these cold weather cities.
You're going to see a lot of teams go for it on fourth instead of kicking it, I think, and just a lot of punting as well, playing the field position game rather than trying to kick a long field goal. And those are the kicks that get you extra points in fantasy.
For all you people who say there's no strategy when it comes to kickers in fantasy, nah. There is. Let's take another look at the injury board before we take a break here. Here are the early game injuries. Tyler Huntley is a go, so is Kenneth Walker. Damian Harris is out, but Ramondre Stevenson, who is the only Patriot Florio would start, he is in. Jacoby Myers is active as well. Brandon Cooks is back after being out for the last few weeks. Treylon Burks back in action after clearing the concussion protocol. Hayden Hurst still a no-go for the Bengals with that calf issue, and Noah Fant active for the Seahawks. Taking a look at the late games and the Sunday games, Jalen Hurts, we know, is out. Gardner Minshew getting the start. Myles Gaskin questionable, as is Latavius Murray, though the Broncos suggesting he should play. Courtland Sutton seems to be trending in the right direction despite his questionable designation. Deontay Johnson questionable. Marquise Brown dealing with a groin injury. Julio Jones questionable with a knee. Let's get to a couple of social questions here. This one from Ricardo. Tony Pollard or Mike Williams trying to get into the final in his flex?
Tony Pollard. I like both of these guys this week, but Pollard is guaranteed touches in production, and he's so explosive, whereas Mike Williams is a little bit more boom or bust.
Yeah, I think I like Tony Pollard in this one. It's just easier to get him the football, if anything. Alex wants to know Amari Cooper or Cam Akers for the flex standard. This is not a PPR league.
I want to say Cooper so badly. I don't like Cam Akers this week, but the weather is a big concern.
I want Cam Akers in this one. I just think he's going to get touches, and especially if it's not PPR, I think that makes it really sketchy for Amari Cooper. So I go Cam Akers in the flex right there. All right, it's time to take a break. Josh Allen getting warm. It actually might be warmer in Chicago than it would be if they were playing in Buffalo today.
I think it is. It's wild.
Whew. Stay warm out there. We'll see what Josh Allen and Justin Fields have in store. And Justin Jefferson, he's wearing short sleeves. They're all indoors. He got the mask on, having fun, playing football. Enjoy that, folks. We got some sleepers coming back. Don't sleep on us. It's NFL Fantasy Game Day. Justin Fields getting the arm loose. We'll see how much the Bears and Bills are able to throw the ball at a cold and windy Soldier Field. I think with as much running as Josh Allen and Justin Fields do, they'll stay relatively warm. Joe Burrow, maybe not as much of a runner, but keeping that arm red hot against the New England Patriots.
I like the sign behind him.
All I want for Christmas is a picture with Joe Burrow.
Oh, the other one says it's never too cold for Joe Burrow.
I feel like that's Cardi B's favorite quarterback, Joe Burrow. I apologize for that.
Christmas Eve.
Our poll question, which quarterback will get into the holiday mood and score the most fantasy points today? And Patrick Mahomes is your leader right now. The other candidates are Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Justin Fields, but not a big surprise that it's Patrick leading the way there.
Yeah, he's MVP favorite for a reason.
You can keep voting, though, at NFL Fantasy until the show is over. Welcome back to the show. I am Marcus Grant. He is Michael F. Florio. You can keep sending us your questions as well on the Twitter machine at NFL Fantasy. Let's get to a couple of them right now. This one from Allison, who wants to know Raheem Mostert, Ramondre Stevenson, or Miles Sanders. Pick two in a standard league, so no PPR here.
Three good options here. I think Ramondre is definitely in play, and I'll go Miles Sanders over Mostert. It looks like Jeff Wilson will return, and that'll eat into Mostert's workload.
I'm with you there, because Ramondre and Sanders are the two frontline guys. Mostert is kind of the secondary guy. And with no Jalen Hurts, it could mean more Miles Sanders running the football there. Andrew, his question is full PPR, Josh Allen or Tua. Hey, it's a quarterback question. PPR doesn't matter, dog. I mean, I appreciate you giving us the extra information, but Josh Allen or Tua, call into the weather trap? Or I guess it means fall into the weather trap, rather. Or go with the stud.
I would still start Josh Allen. I know it's going to be cold, but that probably means even more running for him. That's
the thing. Josh Allen, he's sort of weatherproof in the sense that if he can't throw it, he'll run it. So I go with Josh Allen.
This is a warm game for him, like we said.
Right? It's like, he played in games at Wyoming, too, that were pretty cold, I would imagine. So he's semi-acclimated to this sort of weather. We've got Giants and Vikings. They're going to be nice and cozy and warm in the Dome. And Tom Pelissero, one of our few reporters who's not bundled up to the eyeballs to give us his report. So, Tom, take it away.
The Vikings are coming off the biggest comeback win in NFL history as they host a Giants team that is fighting for their spot in the postseason. Vikings defense still ranks dead last in the NFL in yards allowed. I spoke to linebacker Jordan Hicks, who told me we're still trying to just figure out how to confuse quarterbacks and really the identity of this unit. They're going to have their hands full today with Saquon Barkley. Really had a quiet month before he took over in the fourth quarter last week at Washington, ripped off several big runs to set up a huge field goal. Darius Slayton, the wide receiver, told me those are the types of plays that we need to win games. On the flip side of things, Wink Martindale's defense, one of the best in the red zone. It's one of the best on third downs, one of the best in 2-minute. All situations where Kirk Cousins and this Vikings offense has succeeded. Will be interesting to see how Wink matches up today with Justin Jefferson, who continues to pursue Calvin Johnson's single-season receiving yards record.
Hey, Tom, shout out to the jacket, by the way. That's pretty sweet. I know Tom is kind of a snappy dresser. We give Cam Wolf love. Tom Pelissero.
And I love that he can wear his suit with his hit right now. Doesn't need to cover it up or anything.
Not buried under a North Face jacket there. It's time for Fantasy Insurance presented by Geico. We are talking about the moves that can make or break a lineup. Basically, we're talking about sleepers. So who you got?
Sam Darnold, who I would have felt gross saying any week but this week. Look, he gets the Detroit Lions, who have allowed the most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. And you saw Zach Wilson play on Thursday night, and that was in a good matchup, and it was awful for Zach Wilson. And you were like, why would anyone ever want to play this guy? Well, because the week before, he finishes a top 10 fantasy quarterback against the Detroit Lions. Look, I know Sam Darnold is not a name that you normally want to play, especially not in the fantasy playoffs, but you might be like me, you lost Jalen Hurts. I have to start this guy in multiple leagues because I lost Hurts, and I didn't have enough fab to go out and get Gardner Minshew.
So Sam Darnold in play for Mike Florio. I don't think that's completely crazy. I like Cam Akers, which I'm thinking is not completely crazy, but it could be. I've been saying this all week. I could really regret this when it's all said and done. But he's had 15 or more touches in 2 of his last 3 games. And, you know, for much of the season, we look at the Broncos and say, ooh, I don't think I want to mess with that. But they've really just been kind of mediocre against the run. And I think volume could be a key here because Cam Akers is the best remaining playmaker on an otherwise awful Rams offense. So I think they're going to give him the ball. Should be a fairly low-scoring game, but I think Akers gets touches. Maybe he finds his way into the end zone. Let's get to our flex starts. Those guys that go in that variable position at the bottom of your lineup. Who is your favorite one for the week?
Latavius Murray, for a lot of the reasons that you said, Marcus. Like, I do think this Broncos-Rams game will be close, which is a favorable game script to run the ball a good amount. The Broncos might even be playing with the lead, which is something we don't see, but what I like is last week they gave him 24 carries. The weeks before that, he was getting like 4 or 5 targets, even when they were trailing. So Latavius Murray really isn't leaving the field at all for Denver right now. He's getting the goal line work. He's getting a whole bunch of volume. And the Rams have struggled against the run as of late. So I think he could do a lot worse than Latavius Murray this week.
I know it hasn't shown in wins and losses, but Latavius Murray's been a decent pickup for the Broncos after letting go of Melvin Gordon. Mine is Isaiah Pacheco. And we talked about Jerick McKinnon earlier in the show and whether or not fantasy managers can trust him. But I do think that Pacheco is still in play. I've been saying for the last week or two that the Chiefs now have 2 startable running backs. The thing with Pacheco, because he doesn't really catch the football, the floor and the ceiling are a little bit lower, but they've been fairly consistent for the last few weeks. And the Seahawks are bad against the run. So in a game where I think both teams have to move up and down the field to score points, I think Pacheco is in play. Just understanding that, you're probably looking in the range of, 12 to 16 points for him. But that's been fairly consistent over the last few weeks. Time to step away for just a moment. There's David Montgomery getting loose. Imagine he'll take a few handoffs from Justin Fields in this one. We'll see if he gets the same kind of target share, though, now that Khalil Herbert is back and active for the Bears. And Travis Kelce, who really is the only thing that we have to hold on to in our tight end fantasy lives. We've been let down. Help us, Travis Kelce. You're our only tight end hope. We'll see what he's got in store today against the Seattle Seahawks. Got more coming up. It'll be Saturday Fun Day? We'll workshop that during the break on Fantasy Game Day. Patrick Mahomes Getting ready to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Right now leading our poll as the quarterback who is most likely to get you in the holiday spirit here in Week 16. He just tends to do that. He's even wearing red like Santa. He's giving off gifts. Stephon Diggs, who has been the recipient of a lot of Josh Allen gifts over the last couple of years. We'll see if he can deliver today against the Chicago Bears.
I need him to. Even more than Allen, I need a big Diggs day.
Like Diggs, huh? Sorry, that's my bad Brad Pitt from Snatch impersonation. Time for 15 minutes since the kickoff presented by Geico. They're like, just move on. just get to the important stuff. Let's take a look at the early game injuries. I can talk English. To monitor, Tyler Huntley is good to go. Kenneth Walker also active. No Damian Harris, but Ramondre Stevenson is active, as is Jacoby Myers. Brandon Cooks is back for the Texans. Treylon Burks back for the Titans. Reminder, by the way, that game delayed an hour because of power grid issues in Nashville. Hayden Hurst still inactive. That calf injury just not healing up properly right now. And Noah Fant active for the Seattle Seahawks. Back here on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. He is Mike. I am Marcus. You can keep sending us your questions at NFL Fantasy. In the meantime, the rest of them go to Aaron Tan because he just doesn't like green vegetables. I don't know if you've picked up on that over the course of the season. But let's take a look at a couple of your questions right now. This one from Chet. Tell me why I shouldn't start Romeo Doubs over Trey Burks and Paris Campbell. All right.
I mean, it's kind of hard, too. I would go Trey Burks just because all three of those guys bring a very low floor, and he, I think, is the highest upside play of them all. But if Doubs is your guy, go with him.
Yeah, it's like, it sounds like you already want to start Romeo Doubs, so don't let us stand in the way. That's all I really have on that. DJ wants to know, help, please. Minshew or Purdy lost Hurts this week. My opponent picked up 3 QBs and put them on his bench, so I couldn't get them. I mean, it's not really against the rules. It's actually kind of smart. But I'd be salty, too, if that happened to me.
In 2 leagues, I lost Hurts, and my opponents picked up Minshew over me, and neither one of them are starting. And I'm just sitting here like, this is no fun. But I understand it, and I expected it. I would play Minshew over Purdy for what it's worth.
Agreed. I would play Minshew over Purdy. Again, it's not against the rules. It's, it's gamesmanship. It's actually it's smart strategy. But I would also be salty if that happened to me.
It just stinks when it happens to you.
Right, exactly. It is not actually Sunday Fun Day time. We came up with Saturday Gladder Day. Oh, we get jingle bells this week. That's cool. It's all the same stuff. It's all the superlatives we're talking about for the week ahead. So let's start. Well, actually, let's start with something a little bit different. Who made your naughty list this season?
If you have watched this show or any of our shows at all, you probably know where I'm going to go with this. But Arthur Smith, the Atlanta Falcons, all of that, yeah. You ruined Kyle Pitts, and then when he got hurt, you ruined Drake London. You're ruining Cordero Patterson ever since he returned from the IR. Like, the most usable Falcon for fantasy purposes is Tyler Algier. And even he is nothing more than a flex option right now. Like, this is an offense that has a lot of pieces that we were excited about, particularly Pitts and Drake London. You decided not to throw them the ball, to just run because you can't trust Marcus Mariota. You have Desmond Ridder there. We were calling for him all year. Then you decide to bring him at the end of the year when it's too late to trust anyone in your offense. I don't want anything to do with the Falcons next year if Arthur Smith is still there.
You would think that the heir to the FedEx throne would believe more in air delivery. For me, it's Russell Wilson. I got all excited about Russell Wilson going to Denver. We said that's what Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton needed. They needed the quarterback to take them to the next level. And yeah, even though the whole let's ride thing was cheesy, we still believed that Russ was going to make it happen. You did the very opposite of make it happen. It has been awful. It has been miserable watching this offense all season long. They have not scored points. Russ himself has been bad. We can't count on Jeudy or Sutton regularly. At first, I thought maybe that the Albert O flop thing was just like him not really getting together, but maybe it's just the offense as a whole. You know, some of this actually falls on Nathaniel Hackett as well. Russ is not blameless, but he is the chief architect of my argument here. And so he's going to draw most of my ire. It has been miserable starting Russell Wilson this year. On the flip side, though, who made the nice list for you?
The breakout quarterback tier that included Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, and the biggest breakout of them all, Justin Fields. And this year, when it came to quarterback, if I took one early, it was Jalen Hurts, which is why I'm starting Sam Darnold in multiple places this week. But if I waited, it was these three quarterbacks that I was targeting. Particularly, you could get them as a quarterback 2. You could pair them with someone that was quote-unquote safe, like a Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, or Matt Stafford. And if you did that, these young quarterbacks saved your season because the veterans, quarterback is so much weaker than we thought it would be. But these three are all QB1s. They're all breaking out. And I'd even argue they're going to win a lot of people fantasy championships these next 2 weeks.
There's a conversation to be had this offseason about drafting late-round quarterbacks and who they are going to be, because it's not going to be the same names we are used to. For me, on the nice list is Josh Jacobs. And I guess this is my way of continuing to apologize because we doubted you, Josh. As a group, as a community, we doubted you this year, especially when Josh McDaniels decided to give you 11 billion carries in the Hall of Fame game. We thought for sure it was a wrap for you. Instead, you've turned out to be the best, or one of the best fantasy running backs all year long. They're using you in the passing game. You're breaking off long runs. You have been reliable week in and week out. We're glad to see it. And for those of us who took the chance on you later after you fell in ADP, you had a pretty happy holiday season. All right, let's get to some of our starts for the week. Who is your must-start quarterback in Week 16?
We've talked about this game a whole bunch already, but it's Daniel Jones of the New York Giants, who's been playing really good football as of late. I know you might be like, hey, I watched Sunday night. He didn't play too great. And yeah, that was a bad game, but in the 5 games prior to that, he was averaging 18 fantasy points per game. He showed to have a safe floor, a high ceiling. He's running even more, which only boosts his fantasy value. And then the Vikings, they've allowed the second most passing yards per game to quarterbacks. And in the last 9 games, 7 times they've allowed a top 10 fantasy quarterback. So Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, Vanilla Vic, whatever you like to call him, just make sure he's in your starting lineup.
My must-start quarterback for this week is Geno Smith. Make that Pro Bowler Geno Smith. I hope he wrote back to the Pro Bowl committee to let them know he's going to be there if available. But it's been a great season for him, and this is another good matchup. The Chiefs' defense has been vulnerable this year. Yes, the Chiefs score a lot of points. They give up a lot of points, too. And this could be a very back-and-forth contest, even in the cold there in Kansas City. So I like Geno Smith very much against the Chiefs. Let's look in the backfield. Who is your must-start running back for the week?
I'm going to go exactly where you just went. Kenneth Walker from the Seattle Seahawks. I think Geno Smith is a great play, but I think Kenneth Walker also has himself a good game this week. Kenneth Walker, I know he's coming off of a down game, but it's against the Niners. No one has a good game against them. What I was more concerned about that game was he going to play his normal amount of snaps? And he did. Was he going to look healthy? He did. And now he gets an extended break because they played on Thursday last week, so could be even healthier. The Chiefs, they've struggled against the run a bit, and even if Seattle falls behind, the Chiefs give up a lot of pass production to running backs, so Kenneth Walker could even catch a couple of balls, especially with no Tyler Lockett this week.
So you followed me to Seahawks Chiefs. I'm going to follow you back to Giants and Vikings. And I'm going to say Dalvin Cook is a must-start this week. And last week we saw him have the big game. He had the long catch and run for a touchdown. That was really a big part of their comeback against Indianapolis. And for most of the year, he's been sort of underwhelming. But this time of year, he's starting to pick things up. Another good matchup against another bad run defense. And even though the weather's not going to be a factor in the Dome, I still think you're going to see a lot of opportunity for Dalvin Cook. And hopefully this means he's getting more involved in the passing game. Speaking of people who catch the football, who is your must-start wide receiver?
DJ Moore, who, for 2 reasons. One, DJ Moore plays better when Baker Mayfield isn't the quarterback. Like with Sam Darnold this year, he's topped 18 fantasy points in 2 of the 3 games. He has a bunch of targets from him and half of the end zone targets that Sam Darnold has thrown. But it's also about the matchup. The Lions have allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to wide receivers, the most to quarterbacks. They're allowing the most yards to receivers. I think DJ Moore could go up. And the best part is the Lions games, as fun as they are and as well as they're playing, they're never blowouts because their defense gives up so much production that it's just always very high-scoring games.
The Lions are made for TV because they keep both teams in the game. You can say the same thing about the Chargers. I like Keenan Allen this week. Somebody earlier this week asked us if they should stick with Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, or go to the waiver wire and find somebody else. We were like, what are you doing? You're starting Keenan Allen. He's getting a ton of targets lately. More than 12 a game over the last few weeks, and he's just so consistent. He's so steady. It's not flashy, but it's just consistent, and the Chargers need big plays from the big players this time of year. They're going against the Colts team that really has nothing left to play for now that they've been eliminated from the playoff race. So I do think Keenan Allen is a must-start this week against Indy. Tight ends, who is your must-start there?
George Kittle, who's been very up and down, and when they first made the quarterback change, we were like, we're going to see a lot of manufactured touches for Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. Deebo goes out. Now it's George Kittle getting those manufactured touches because he can do a whole lot of damage after the catch. I expect that to be the case, even in a tough matchup today against the Commanders.
I do like George Kittle this week. I just think, they want to get the ball out quickly from Purdy, and he's the guy to do it. TJ Hawkinson, I don't know if you can tell, we like a lot of players in this Vikings-Giants game. TJ Hawkinson's been so great since he got traded to the Detroit Lions. He's one of the few tight ends we can count on a weekly basis. And this game has the potential to get up and down, be back and forth, because these defenses are struggling right now. So I like TJ Hawkinson as that option over the middle of the field. He and Kirk Cousins seem to work really well together. That gets us to our Christmas miracle prediction for Week 16, the thing that we are so much looking forward to happening. What is it for you?
It's a Christmas miracle, right?
Yes.
The quarterback that you stream this week is going to make you forget about Jalen Hurts, if only for a day. Look, I know so many people were panicking this week when Hurts went out. I'm one of them. I'm starting Sam Darnold in multiple leagues because of it. People are starting Minshew, Purdy, it doesn't matter, Danny Jones. It doesn't matter. I think we're going to speak it into existence. You're not going to miss Jalen Hurts because that streamer is going to give you Jalen Hurts type production.
Woo, that is spicy. For me, I'm going to say that Alvin Kamara is going to leave his third 20-plus performance for the season under your Christmas tree. I know it's been a struggle for Kamara, but here we are. We're nearly 2 years removed from his huge 6-touchdown game on Christmas Day. Would have been 7. Thanks, Taysom Hill. But I think in this game against the Cleveland Browns, with the winds being what they are, with the Saints not having any pass catchers available to them, this feels like a game where they decide to load up Alvin Kamara with a ton of touches. If it doesn't happen now, I don't know when it happens. So
we need some Christmas miracles out here. That's what we need.
That's exactly what we need. One last look at our poll question. Which quarterback will get into the holiday mood and score the most fantasy points today? Patrick Mahomes is your winner. Nearly a dead heat, though, between Josh Allen and Justin Fields there.
I think you can make the poll say, like, almost anything, and Patrick Mahomes would win.
Pretty much. Except for, which quarterback do you least want to start?
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes wouldn't win that one because you want to start Patrick Mahomes. That's pretty much going to do it for this edition of NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. We appreciate you watching. Happy holidays to you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay warm. Enjoy Week 16. And hopefully, you're talking about a championship situation next week. We will see you next Sunday.
He's been the man on this drive, and he cashes in with a touchdown.
First and goal, Dobbins again, dances, drives, and scores. 4-yard touchdown run by J.K. Dobbins.
Goff, little pitch to right, big gain. Brock Wright is going to take it the distance. Touchdown, Lions.
Darnold for the end zone. DJ Moore has it, and yeah, that's a Panther touchdown. Taysom Hill is in. And he's going to take a deep shot, and he's got Rashid Shaheed. Touchdown, Saints.
Peoples-Jones going to play it from the 25, breaks a couple of tackles. Peoples-Jones still going, maintains his balance. It's a foot race. Peoples-Jones will score.
Smith looking for Goodwin in the end zone. A little toe tap in the corner for the touchdown as Smith dropped it in the bucket to Goodwin.
McKinnon and a block will open up the door. The game is over. Touchdown run, McKinnon. The Chiefs have won.
First and goal. Backpedaling. Man wide open at the 5. And that's a touchdown for Chris Edmonds.
Delayed handoff. Here he is again. And touchdown, New England. Kevin Harris is first.
It's a pass on second down. Jones into the end zone. It's a touchdown for Isaiah Hodgins.
They're going to set up the screen with Dalvin Cook and let him chew up the yards. Dalvin Cook, there he goes. Dalvin Cook is going to be caught up with blockers inside the 5. Touchdown.
Allen on the run, throwing for the end zone. It is caught. Quentin Morris.
It'll be first and goal from the 9. Back to Montgomery. David Montgomery for the Bears touchdown. And Chicago takes the lead.
Heineke looking for the end zone. Touchdown! Dotson!
Fake toss, 2 fake tosses, and then to Kittle over the middle. Touchdown, San Francisco.
On 4th and 7, Hurts lofts it for Smith. It's a touchdown, Devontae Smith. There's Pollard on the edge, great speed. Pollard to the end zone, touchdown.
There he goes, Mills on the run, room to roam, and touchdown! 17-yard touchdown run by quarterback Davis Mills.
Derrick Henry takes the snap right up the middle. Henry is in! Touchdown, Tennessee!
Hubbard gets the carry with a lot of running room. Chuba Hubbard all the way up to midfield before he was dragged down from behind. Nolan Fine getting a start at safety because of the injured Deshaun Elliott made the tackle.
And this is exactly what Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator Detroit, said he did not want to see. He said, I don't want to know how fast these guys are. I want to know how tough they are. You have to set the edge, keep them in the middle. Excellent job by this Panthers offense.
For the Steelers. It's the season for miracles. And on the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, NFL Network is celebrating in style on Christmas Eve.
Let's go, man!
Raiders.
At the goal line, grabbed it!
Steelers.
You've got to be kidding me!
Live in prime time. The Holiday Classic. Christmas Eve at 8, only on NFL Network.
they have really protected Joe Burrow.
Jamar Chase named the Pro Bowl. Burrow looking down the sideline. Higgins, 50-50 ball. It's caught by Higgins, more like 80-20 when you get Higgins involved. Working that sideline, and just like that, Cincinnati's in New England territory. That's a 39-yard hookup.
And he worked the sideline, and he also worked Marcus Jones, number 25. Watch Higgins. He touches Jones, so he feels where he is, and I think he subtly controlled him on it, too. Because by him having his hands on Jones the way that he did, he can push off here. Let's just play our game.
Here's Burrow out of the gun on 2nd and 5. Catch made. T. Higgins lowers his shoulder into the end zone. Touchdown, Bengals. And they just moved it down the field with ease. Jonathan Jones was trying to keep him out of the end zone.
Yeah, but watch T. Higgins win the route there on the separation, and then watch him finish it off with dropping the shoulder and running over Jonathan Jones into the end zone. So he does it twice on it. Gets away from him first to make the catch, and then takes him on one.
Blackshear as Darnold keeps flips to Blackshear, heading in the end zone and in for a Panthers touchdown. What a start for the home team.
Good old-fashioned speed option. Option football is about putting a player in conflict, and it's going to be Kaminsky on the edge. It's going to be in conflict. Two responsibilities for one player. Can't cover them both. Blackshear able to turn on the jet.
Run game. 3rd and goal. Fields. Throw it this side of the field. Wide open for the touchdown. Dante Pettis.
This one was easy. Bills, they get confused. They don't communicate. They don't pass off. You see Jackson goes inside. You see Johnson, he stays in the flat. That's an easy ball for Pettis. And again, what an impressive drive. You go right.
Does this shirt make my arm look small?
Your arm
is almost unperceivable in that
Okay,
shirt.
I will give him 2 tutties there, and it's a handy little 21 points. Joe Mixon, out of concussion protocol. We were like shooting off on the. I'm just gonna throw this up.
And I don't think I've ever heard the words hot dog eating contest said more in like 4 sentences than in that voice.
Like it's outside of like July 4th at Coney Island.
Of Carolina. Goff, arrogant out deep, and he's got Chark. Can he hold on? He does, going to the ground at the 20-yard line. DJ Chark. And Goff wants to hurry up and snap it. He said as Chark and Reynolds became more and more healthy, we could be more aggressive downfield.
You see he's going to take a smack right there from Haynes, and then it's going to be
excellent field position for the Ravens as Huntley rolls to his right and now throws. It's caught. Sammy Watkins, who just returned to the Ravens on Tuesday after he was released by the Green Bay Packers. He was a Raven last season, and he gains 40 on the catch and run.
Nice job, Tyler Huntley. Sammy Watkins, they had the connection. Remember him in Minnesota for the Vikings.
Mahomes looking that direction for McKinnon. He's got it on the sideline, and McKinnon out of bounds inside the Seattle 25 at the 24.
And right on cue.
Tight ends they use.
Jamison Williams is in the game. Goff fakes, goes the other way. Touchdown! He made it look easy. Flipping to Shane Zylstra. His second touchdown catch of the season. And Campbell signaling it's good. Each team scoring on their opening possession.
It's going to be Xavier Woods. It's going to be in the coverage, but you're going to see Zylstra just sneak his way to the back of the end zone and just break to the outside.
Here's a 3rd and 6. Allen now going to run it. Going to get some first down yardage as he runs it out of bounds. Allen comes into this game with 109 carries for more than 700 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns.
Well, that's the challenge, whether it's Allen or whether it's Justin Fields. When you have that kind of running lane inside, he's going to take it. And, you know, some quarterbacks have a profile. Some quarterbacks like to break.
19. Allen looking around, now throwing, far side, end zone, touchdown. Gabe Davis. Josh Allen had all kinds of time to look for and find an open man, and it was Davis.
Oh, he sure did. And if you look at his eyes, he's looking at Davis almost the entire time. Right there, he's left, left, left. And so the corner and the safety on that side, they have got to be able, you know,
the flip, a little juggle on that flip from Kadarius Toney, turns it upfield. It started with a bobble, it ends with a touchdown.
Oh, the little dance move.
Thanks to Kadarius Toney. The juggling act turns into 6 for Toney, his 2nd Chiefs touchdown.
Bills mix the extra point. Bears still lead 7-6. Back to you guys in New England.
The throw to the end zone. Caught for the touchdown. Trenton Irwin. Joe Burrow is throwing BBs. And the Bengals are rolling.
Well, we saw the end result, Ian, which is Trenton Irwin running from the slot down the middle of the field against 2 deep coverage, and a perfectly thrown ball before Devin McCourty can make a play on it. But what Cincinnati also did was they took advantage of New England.
From the Chris Wesseling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. You have one foot in 2 bandwagons, the Colts and the Titans, and they're both literally in flames.
You guys are always talking about, oh yeah, we're the real Locksaddies. We're like 25
well,
and 5.
Also, give him his flowers, Greg, as you're one to say.
No, we're not allowed to say that.
Well, I never said that.
We're not allowed to say that, Mark.
I
Money in the jar.
the Seattle 4th down threat.
Oh, what a situation here.
They got to get these hands down. You got to know it's quick game. You got to remind your left tackle, Charles Cross, to get those guys down. We'll be back after this.
Minnesota Viking receiving yard record holder, passing the great Randy Moss.
There's so many things that are good about this. First, Kirk Cousins, just a dip. Watch him sell it. Get down, and then, I mean, Justin Jefferson eats space. He chews up the corner, the space between the wide receiver and the defensive back. He chews that space up, and then
So Justin Jefferson passes Randy Moss's 2003 run, where he had 1,632 receiving yards. Jefferson has a couple of catches today. He needs 10 more.
Yard field goal. Longest in league history. Here's Tucker from 55. It's blocked. Second straight week. Tucker has had the field goal attempt blocked. So the Falcons special teams comes up big.
in, taps the toes, it's a touchdown. Cousins got hit, 2 flags were thrown, and that ball found TJ Punts to start the day, and then a really strong drive. Cousins stands in the pocket to find his Pro Bowl tight end. Vikings on top.
Pro Bowl. 2nd down and 7 on the toss. It's Algier. And Algier, after breaking the tackle attempt in the backfield, hurdles across midfield for an Atlanta first down.
And that's Patrick Queen that was chasing him down, able to get away from that. And look at Chuck Clark just going right for the legs, and Tyler Algier.
Hello.
How are you, dear?
I'm doing great, doll.
It's the holiday season, Connie.
Oh, it is?
It sure is. John, can you please get the tree down from the attic?
Frankie Louvu
Frankie Louvu
emerged as a starter this year. I just love saying his name. You're really down on the Bears.
No, I'm not.
I feel like you
They just are what they are.
kind of a Bears hater.
All right.
What
all
kind
right.
of Grinch are you?
Thank you. Now I'll say something nice about all the listeners who've been following along all year. Thank you. We'll
love
be
you
back
guys.
next week.
Dropped a couple already. Dalton protected, that pass deflected and picked off. Intercepted. It's Grant Delpit. Delpit still looking for daylight, and he returns it all the way to the Saints 30. 40 on the return by Delpit.
It was a really good throw by Andy Dalton. This ball is there to be caught. Juwan Johnson dives for it. It hits off of his hand and bounces right into Delpit's hands. And then now Delpit is off. And what a big play for that Browns defense. Getting a turnover, getting down, jumping into the dog pound, celebrating with your friends, trying to...
from the 8-yard line. Ball's loose, and the Panthers are on it. The exchange from Goff, the minute he got the snap, came out of his hands, and Yetur Gross-Matos came up with it.
It just doesn't look like this thing ever came up. Never has a hold of it.
From center, Frank Ragnow. Goff couldn't even get it back to his back, and the Panthers take it.
Allen stands in, throws far side, intercepted, picked off by Kyler Gordon. Gorlin up the sideline, still on his feet, coming back across, and now down at about the 35-yard line, brought down by the running back James Cook. Kyler Gordon with his 3rd interception of this season. So the scoring threat blunted by the Bears. They take over. 13:03 to play in the first half.
All day for Daniel Jones, and now he can take off his best season as a runner. In fact, the best running season by a Giants quarterback in its franchise's history. He picks up 10 for a first down.
And I love it. He went through about 3 guys here. He looked to his right, then he got back into the middle. You see him getting back to the middle. Everybody's covered, and this is what he's done. They have designed runs for Daniel Jones, and don't run those. But where he's gotten most of his runs, over 500 yards of offense, produced on the scramble fullback.
It's a fake to Barkley. Jones loads up, and he's got Bellinger, who lost the football, and it's scooped up by Minnesota. Brian Asamoah came out with it as Bellinger coughed it up. It was all Asamoah, the rookie out of Oklahoma, their 3rd-round pick, knocking it free and taking it away. I'm going to give that a 5 out of 10. So.
Yeah, great play design, too, because Bellinger coming through the middle. You see Asamoah stops a little bit right there, but now he just goes tomahawk chop right on the ball perfectly. I mean, that's perfect execution. And then the wherewithal to go scoop this thing up, get down the sideline.
I think Peanut Tillman would appreciate that perfect punt.
The slot. Burrow on 3rd and 17. Delivers on time. Jamar Chase inside the 5. Burrow is picking apart this New England defense.
And how about the timing of the throw and the pattern? Exquisite. Watch this. Ball's gone right now. See as he's making the break? His back was to us. Jamar.
Gene Steratore, rest of our CBS crew. Happy holidays from Cleveland. Here's Watson looking for the edge. Watson is going to stroll in for the Cleveland touchdown. They take advantage of the Dalton pick, and Watson showing the wheels.
Just a good job by Kareem Hunt. They didn't have Amari Cooper, they didn't have Nick Chubb in there. They had Kareem Hunt. So what do?
You go with the Deshaun Watson run to the outside. Really good job.
Big run to set him up. He keeps Darnold to the end zone. A massive Panthers touchdown. A souvenir of Christmas Eve in Charlotte.
Again, options are meant to put players in conflict. Conflict players going to be right here on the edge. Sam Darnold keeps it, gets some blocking on the outside.